7:45 a.m. Bat, there's food out there. Come on. 7:45 a.m. Out here in the woods, of course. Come on, dude. Come on. There's food out here. Not too sure of our current temperature. Not too sure what our temperature is supposed to be throughout this day. But we are under very white skies this morning. Jet aircraft has been flying overhead, adding to the mix as we are to be expecting scattered thunderstorms today. Now, whenever they should make mention of scattered showers or storms, basically those are your pop-up scenarios, of which, well, meteorologists can't predict nor forecast pop-up showers or storms. They just have to kind of go with the flow. Radar typically is slowed down to where whatever is shown is past tense. So you have to understand all that. But of course, so many people are so beguiled through the deception of our weather scenarios and events anymore that, doesn't matter how often that I come out with my little proofs and evidences, there's still your naysayers, those that still have the wool pulled over their eyes, and so on and so forth. And this kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of the headline news this morning, such as here in Michigan, we had the election process for this, that, and the other thing yesterday and the previous night. And of course, well, now Donald Trump has already come out first thing with his version of a hissy fit over El Said being nominated for the Senate seat. And of course, hey, I can't agree with Trump's narratives, but I agree with the factor of no, we don't need this guy holding a political position, flat out, plain and simple. I mean, have you guys seen the guy with his shirt off? I mean, he looks like an agent for the cartel or the drug gangs. The ones that Donald Trump likes to go after, the Latino gangs of, what is it, MI16 or 13 or whatever. Yeah, that's what the guy reminds me of, And I really don't have respect for people that are, treating their bodies such as coloring books, walking coloring books. That's what I describe as people that have a plethora of tattoos, so-called adornments to their bodies. I am not in favoritism of tattooing. Sorry if I offend you. But you know what? I'm not here to be friendly, such as YouTube has demonized this channel as being unfriendly in nature. So, hey, if they want to classify me as unfriendly, screw it. We can go that route too. So now we got this fight over a Senate seat here in Michigan between El Said, and Captain America, Mike Rogers. And I say Captain America because of the last name of Rogers. Okay? And well, I'll just go ahead and leave that at that. Okay? So let's go with the comic book narratives. Okay? So now we got this issue with these so-called cyber attacks on the water infrastructure systems, right? And trying to blame Iran for that. Well, you know what? I have not seen anything of Iran doing anything other than to its neighboring countries. Okay? I don't believe the narrative because, after all, in today's day and age, we have this thing known as artificial intelligence, in which many systems have already reported how these computer programs have run amok. Okay? Now then, we also have this security spy system or surveillance system, nationwide if not global. And of course they're hardcore at work trying to instill this protection dome over the United States, the Golden Dome, much akin to Israel's Iron Dome, right? Of course, the Iron Dome had to be tested thoroughly before we could implement one of our own here. You know, Israel is basically a test stage country and has been for many, many years, in my opinion. Okay. So we've got all these cyber securities that need to be implemented through AI. So AI is testing the grid's infrastructure, as far as I'm concerned. And these so-called cyber attacks is just AI's version of seeking out the weak spots. Okay? But they have to blame some kind of a human error or a human counterpart. Because, well, we cannot be dissing on AI because that is the way of the future. Okay? So let's go ahead and create the narrative that, oh, it's some foreign country that is causing these cyber attack issues. No, these cyber attack issues have been hitting everywhere ever since the rollout of AI, and it still has not come about in full force whatsoever. Okay? Now I just put a seed in the tree here. I don't know what we've got going on. So, okay, so Michigan, of course, being like the #1 state that got hit by this parasite Cyclospora, which causes this explosive diarrhea scenario known as cyclosporiasis. Okay, well, so we've got that, and now all of a sudden we've got this case of 27, mind you, 27, the number that denotes trouble. 27 states now that are reporting cases of Salmonella. Huh, another yearly issue, just like Listeria. And yet, you know, we never hear of any sources. I mean, oh yeah, we've located the source. But, you know, do we hear of any crackdowns that take place after the fact? Not really. Well, good morning. Are you hungry? Huh? Are you hungry this morning? Did you hear me talking? Huh? What you thinking? Huh? Well, come here. Come here. You're fine. All right, let me get some seed. We'll backtrack. After all, I'm still doing a little bit of talking here. Come on, over this way. Hey, there's nothing around the tree, even though I put seed. Goldie, if you're Goldie, I don't know. Hey, do you want some seed? Huh? Come on. You're gonna go without. So anyways, let's go on to our next subject. So, okay, ever since I was a kid, early on in life, come on, let's backtrack here. Well, I once was a very avid reader, okay, and my mother helped me, as well as the school system, within the aspects of reading. But it was more so a past acquaintance of mine when we were kids that introduced me into the world of comic books. And I was so fascinated with comics that I had to learn how to read. You know, I could not go just according to the pictures. You know, it was all about it was all about. No, I got to understand what the pictures are saying through these little thought bubbles of the, you know, that's coming from the comic book characters. Okay, so in the realm of comic books, one of the first comics that I remember, and actually remember it approximately 10 years after the publication of this specific comic, because it came out in 1963 and I was born in 67. But I had a cousin that's 9 years older than what I am, and he was a comic book reader. And when I would visit him and his family as a child, well, oftentimes I would spend most of the time within that visitation, that family get together, in his bedroom reading his collection of comics. And one comic was a 1963 publication date of Magnus, Robot Killer. And for some reason, not really the contents therein of the comic, but the cover itself showing Magnus kicking the snot out of a robot. Okay, and that scene has always been at the back of my mind, and well, for some reason it came back up this morning and into the recesses of my mind, which basically came forth for some unknown but now apparent reason. Because comics themselves have a lot of predictive programming qualities. And now we are in this day and age of robots and artificial intelligence and all that. And with this comic book character known as Magnus, Robot Killer, from 1963 comics, the name Magnus brings about thoughts of Nostradamus, and with his predictions and the quatrains, his writings in verse form, if you will, known as quatrains, in which he brings about this name of a character, or most people throughout the centuries have thought that it was a name of a person, that of Mabus. Is it Mabus or Rebus? Mabus. I think it's Mabus. Anyways, that sounds quite a little bit like Magnus. But then again, Nostradamus could have been referring to MAGA in the US, because oftentimes, just like when he would speak of Hitler, the name was Hister. You know, just little variations to the spellings of names and whatnot. So you have to take that into consideration. Oh yeah, go for that water. Good job. So you know, I've got a weird way of connecting the dots, but you know, 9 times out of 10, man, those connections are pretty darn spot on. And it might take a while for them to come about, but you know, why not? We'll feed them good, just in case we do get rain this morning or whenever. When I did last check, because I did go to our radar, or the radar app that I have. Hi, girl. And yeah, these cats are wanting human attention given to them this morning. Hey, come on now. What is up with you guys? Tension in the air. So, once again, I make these connections, and just like, over years and years of sky observations and having to make the connections thereof as well in order to explain what I see taking place rather than the mainstream narratives and the, what the meteorologists are trained, programmed to tell us, which is most generally cases that I debunk pertaining to said narratives. And it's all about connecting the dots, the highest common denominators. You guys need to eat. Yeah, they're wanting something special, but well, they're getting something special by having food at all. Well, put out a lot of food and nobody's really eating this morning. Maybe it's still a little bit too early for them, but I've done this just over the factors of not knowing if and when it will rain, and just trying to keep one step ahead of the game. So anyways, yeah, quite a few things caught my attention to this morning's so-called news. And I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and voice my own personal opinions over a lot of this crap. Now, as far as Michigan politics, we also have this race for governorship, or for the seat of governor. And we've got the former and or current Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, which, no, she rubs her elbows too much with Gretchen Whitmer, which has proven to be a ultimate failure for this state on many, many levels. And why, she has not gotten a major slap down for her overreach of powers. And I mean, I watched when this female was first put into the seat of governor, and when she so-called won the election. And the following day, what'd she do? She got together with quite a few corporate members, and here she was campaigning on, oh, we need to go after the rich, we need to tax the rich, and blah, blah, blah. And here she was rubbing elbows with corporate powers the following day. That right there blew it for me, and I've seen nothing of value from that person ever since. And then when it came down to the pandemic and the nonsense that she pushed on people, and not only that, just the state, but nationwide through the pandemic and the government, and having all these nursing homes going on lockdown, to where, well, I didn't get to spend much time with my mother in her dying years, and of course she was vaccinated, and because of these BS policies over fear, because it wasn't really over a virus, it was all over fear, right? The whole pandemic was a fear-based experiment. And so many people complied, went out and got the jabs, and without, just accepting it. No questions asked. Yeah, give it to me, give it to me. Yep. I see all these politicians with their shirt sleeves rolled up with the needles, not going into their skin, but going behind their arm, their shoulder. Yeah, make them believe that they are being injected, or being injected with who knows what, maybe saline solution, a water-based something or another, but not really so-called vaccine, because I still question the factors of how they came about with the vaccine so quick. Yeah. But anyways, so I will never ever listen to the government once again when it comes down to factors of epidemics, pandemics, or what have you. And now we got a new person in charge of the CDC, which she's just going to make a mockery out of all of that as well. That's a given. That is a given. You know. Oh, I could go on with so much more, people. You know, my realities. Oh, through my observations, because I am now a trained observer. Hey, I still make mistakes, but you know what? I still see a whole hell of a lot more than most of you people out there. And because of my non-compliancy in many forms, I'm actually doing a whole hell of a lot better than many of you health-wise. Yeah. Yeah, I got some things that I can brag about because of factors of non-compliancy. Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, some people just cannot help themselves, because even though I put out so many narratives through my narrations about today's technology, and well, not to be beguiled by the devil, if you will, known as AI. Oh no, people still have to go right on out and play around with it. And sorry people, but there is reality behind such sayings as one rotten apple will spoil the whole bunch, right? Or the whole barrel. Well, I am going to eventually take that saying to heart. Because again, I will not sponsor, endorse, back up, praise. No, actually I will do exactly the opposite whenever I come across videos that have been created through AI. Already I go through the recommended watch video and I click on all the content that I know has been created through artificial intelligence, and I hit that do not recommend channel. Well, because AI seems to be having such an influence on, well, quite a few subscribers to this channel, well, I have to take some personal measures, because I do not agree with me stating my disgust over today's technologies, having people listening to me go on griping and groaning about AI and such, and then going off and creating content themselves through the use of AI. And I don't care the reasons nor purposes, because, well, there's none. There is no real reasons for use of AI. And yeah, I am fallible, because of course we got this crap known as the Google search engine, now completely automated through AI, which of course I have shown many proofs and evidences through my community postings over how nonsensical this garbage technology is. And even at that, I have subscribers out there that still would rather go ahead and become compliant, fall into Satan's grips through use of this type of technology rather than steering clear. Well, I need to steer clear of those that uses AI. Sorry, people. And furthermore, this is getting to the point to where, people don't want to comment exactly on what I show in my recordings. You are not participating on my channel in proper form as far as I'm concerned. And it's my channel, and my concerns are ultimate. And ultimately, I will be shutting down the comment sections. And ultimately, once again, I will be unsubscribing from all channels. I don't care about the repercussions. There's always newcomers that come about. I don't get comments on past content very often at all. That means nobody is going through and reviewing my content, so why should I go ahead and do likewise for others if they're not going to comply and do the same for me? Why should I go back 3 years in some channel's content if nobody's willing to do that for me? Yeah. Tit for tat. And it sounds like we got a lot of people out there sucking on the wrong tits. And I cry enough of tat. Right? Yeah. Well, I believe this is enough. I think there was something else that I actually wanted to come out with, but yeah. I still have plenty of room on my SD card, plenty of time to still post content, I guess, and plenty of time to continue on with my opinionated narratives and rhetorics of how I see reality. Well, all I ask is that you people see my reality. That's why this has become a blog channel rather than just a sky observation channel, because I show a whole lot more of what I observe on a daily basis, and therefore it's a video logbook. Tune in or tune out, I don't care anymore. Because after all, when it comes right down to it, it goes beyond the platform and it's AI nonsense that burns me, that gets under my skin, that causes attitudes. No. More of the problems, of course, is always revolving around humans. And that means you, the subscribers and viewers. You're my main problem anymore. I get nothing from you guys. Or very little. And just to make people happy, yeah, I go with the flow and try to provide respectable comments or replies. But, being nice just does not cut it anymore. And let's go ahead and wander on out because, well, they're adding to the mix, apparently. I can hear aircrafts up here in the sky. Not seeing anything, which basically means that it is above all of this crap, which means It is not your typical airliner. No, it is adding to the mix. Well, I guess right up in here we do have a little bit of a glow up to where we could see some brakes coming on. But yeah, we got some blueness. So who knows? Maybe their weather predictions are nothing but lies once again. And we do still have quite a little bit of fogginess out here. Yeah, if I can even get this damn phone to work properly, or the camera thereof. Yeah, peek through us through the weeds, or the leaves. Can you see it? Yeah, we can go ahead and play the face game as well, right? Oh yeah, I see faces in the clouds, I see faces in the trees. Well, we can do that too. After all, I guess I show many faces in the clouds. What people have been picking up on. Alright, enough is enough. This has been too much. Skyways out.